We're live. Good morning. Today, we're talking about fear. Yep, insecure dogs, nervy dogs. How do we help these dogs? Thank you for joining. It's Friday. Finally Friday. Good morning. I'm 5 minutes late. I tell you guys it's around about 8 o'clock. Today, I was 5 minutes late because, things get busy. I'm going to give a second for everybody to join. The topic today is fear, okay? Fear / insecure dogs / nervy dogs and how we help these dogs, okay? So it's a good topic, it's a fun topic, and we get a lot of dogs in that are insecure and nervy. And the big, the note that we're gonna take out of this, one of the things I'm gonna try to teach you about today is exposure therapy, okay? And how we can help these dogs through exposing them to the world in an appropriate fashion. And I know what you're thinking already. You're like, how can you expose this dog to the world when it's in crazy town? Well, that's what we're going to go through. You can't show them the world while they're in crazy town because they're not going to see anything. They're just gone. So, thank you for joining, everybody. Today's topic is fear. How we help dogs who have severe insecurity and perhaps even genetical issues that are just lean towards the nervy side. So if you haven't seen a dog who is, think of it as a spectrum, as always, right, guys? So on this end, we got a really, really insecure, nervy dog, and on this end, we got a very confident dog, and there's everything in between, okay? We're gonna lean towards the very insecure dogs, the dogs that are afraid of their own shadow kind of thing. The dogs that are jumping and spooking to everything, and they're very unsure of the world. So even just environmentally, they're nervous of the world. So they don't understand the world, and all they do is probably run away from it or bark at it or always be in this state of mind, right? So we'll get these dogs from time to time, actually quite often, and they come in and they're just a mess, right? They're usually okay with their owner. So they're usually comfortable with the humans in their life, the immediate humans, like the mom and dad, and maybe if the kids are around, but they're nervous about the environment, and then probably even nervous about strange people. That's the kind of stuff that we see. So how can we get a dog like this into a balanced state? And so the name of the game is going to be exposure therapy towards the end of the training, but we need to be able to get this dog certain skills so we can even bring it out and put it on a street corner and let it watch cars go by and all that. You can't do that on day one, folks, because the dog's gone. It's gone. So I'm going to sum it up in a relatively short fashion for myself, I think, and what the dog needs and what we need to get there. So before we get started, though, I want you to understand something about these dogs that are usually more insecure and more nervous. They generally are, because they're so insecure of everything, they overreact to everything. So everything's an overreaction. So you can get bit by these kinds of dogs very easily. In fact, I think most people get bit by these dogs more than they get bit by dominant dogs who you can tell, that they're gonna, I think what it is with the insecure dogs is that you feel bad for them, and because you see that they're struggling, so we're more likely to try to get our hands in there, and we can get bit by these dogs. Here's what's going on in their heads. I'm going to go after the worst case scenario. They're nervy, whether it's genetical or not. Most of the time it is a little genetical. So they're insecure about everything, but they're also confused, right? Because they don't understand the human world. So they're confused and they're nervous and they're amped up generally too. So generally they're usually in a not such a healthy space as far as state of mind goes. And on top of all that, they have attitude, which means they don't want to learn from you. They don't want to take your direction. They don't care about what you have to say. But they're also nervous of you and insecure of you and confused and in a bad state of mind. And that's how they live their life. So so this is what it needs to have. And it needs what every other dog needs. This is the great part, is that not a whole lot changes. Approach it changes a little bit, but what we're going after is essentially the same thing. This dog needs to be taught the commands at a high level and to be held accountable for doing them. So that means non-negotiable commands. And that's where things get sticky, because it's like, well, the dog's a nervous, insecure dog. And the question comes up, or it has come up, like, should you correct that dog who's nervous? And the answer is yes. For these commands, for non-compliance to the commands, you have to, in order for the next steps to work. So we just treat them like a normal dog-ish, with the proper finesse that we need in relationship to get this dog to have the proper relationship with me, so that it's comfortable with me. I'm its new owner in its eyes. That's what we work for. And then we teach these commands. So down, sit, place, heel, and come. All on the e-collar. The dog's held accountable to do and perform these when asked, just like any other dog. It has to. This is the saving grace. Because once we have the dog trained up on these commands and we know that it understands them, it understands the corrections, and we can hold it accountable, now we can start working some real rehab work with this dog, okay? We got the relationship, me and that dog are good. We got trust and respect. We got the commands, awesome. We got it on e-collar so we can hold them accountable, awesome. Now it's time. The next step is to be teaching the coping skills that the dog's going to need when it's in a stressful environment or a stressful situation. Because that's what it comes down to. You can think, well, he's nervous when this happens, and he's nervous when this happens, and he's nervous when this happens. You can think like that, but there's too many things to think of. I like to do it broad, so it's just, how does the dog respond around stress? High levels of stress. What is the dog's response? The dog's current response is A, B, or C, right? Trying to run away, drooling, barking. Even insecure dogs will bark and lunge and make themselves look confident, but they're just doing it to keep the world away. So whatever behavior they're choosing, yeah, it's all for the same reasons. They're nervous and they're insecure. So I'm going to teach them a different coping skill. So this is how we do it. We're in the training room. We teach the dog down, obviously. You guys know that. And so at this point, I'm putting the dog in a down, and then I'm going to go grab some triggers. And there's 2 different types of triggers I need to work on with every dog, but especially insecure dogs. And if you don't know what a trigger is, it's something that's going to get the dog to want to break its command. Okay, whether it's a knock on the door or a squeaky ball or another dog, it's a setup. We're setting this up so that we're trying to see if the dog will fall for the bait, if you will. If I squeak a ball and roll it across the floor while the dog's in a down, does the dog just get up out of its down? That allows you to have the conversation and teach the dog, hey, don't get up even if things are going on in the environment that you want, okay? So here's the 2 types of triggers that I'm looking for. I'm going to proof this dog with things that it wants, okay? Like a squeaky ball or food or humans or whatever. Things that it wants to go towards. I want to go get that thing. I want to get off I want to get out of this down and go up towards that person. I want to get out of this down and go up to that ball because that looks like fun. And then I'm also going to heavily focus on this dog, particularly the triggers that make them want to run away. So you have to do triggers that make them want to run away too, like the vacuum cleaner. Does the dog want to run towards it or run away from it? Most of these insecure dogs want to run away from it. And so we got to proof it with things that provide us concern. The dog's concerned a little bit. I'm concerned. I want to get up and go find a safer spot. But we're saying, when you feel concerned, stay in your down. This is, I know, and this is where it's like, well, that's not very nice to do that, dog, to put it in a down and then to turn a vacuum on and the dog's afraid of it. And then you say, don't get out of the down. But this is what happens. Because the dog's not allowed to get out of the down, it's like nervous. It's nervous. It sees that vacuum. And then all over the course of 30 seconds to a minute to a few minutes, what you see is the dog notices nothing bad's happening. And it also notices I'm standing there saying, good boy, nice job staying in your down. And then I turn the vacuum off. And so we're starting to teach the dog, when you feel that concern and that insecurity coming up and you're starting to get nervy, I don't want you to run away, or I don't want you to bark at it and try to get it to go away. I just want you to stay in your command, whatever command you're in, whether it's sit, down, heel, place, whatever. The commands are going to equal safety and security for the dog. And my word is, hey, trust me, stay right there, you're fine. And I start that indoors. Indoors, obviously, I want to teach the skills in a controlled setting. So I'm using things like the vacuum or like a food bowl that I slide across the room because it makes that scary sound. I'm using these things to trigger the conversation of when your brain starts to go into fear, just lean into the command that you're in. And I use down to start usually. Just relax there, and you'll notice everything's going to be good. Plus you're going to be getting praise from me, and the dog picks up on it. They pick up on it because our relationship's there, you know. So you see them start to build a little bit of confidence in it, and they understand. I think at one point or another, the dog starts to understand, okay, this is kind of like a game. Like, you're going to bring things into the room, and if it makes me nervous, if I trust you, I look at you and I stay in my command, everything's fine. You pat me on the head. Okay. So we get the dog past that hump, which is huge. And this could take a course of a week playing these little games like this. And there's a bunch of different things I'll do, but I'm teaching it with the sit, stay, and perhaps the down, just to help the dog learn the skill of, when you're nervous, just sit here and watch the environment. Don't panic. Just watch it. Stay in your down and just watch. And see what happens. And I think what you'll learn, dog, is that nothing is hurting you. The car that you're afraid of that goes, woof, if you freak out and run away, the car was never going to hit you, but you think that the running away is what kept you from being hit by the car, or being whatever the dog thinks of the car. It's nervous of it. If it runs away, it thinks running away is the answer. We need to teach them that the car, all this stuff in your head is superstition. This is the dog's response to stress. They run, right? We're teaching them to stay instead. And so you watch them go through this battle, and the really, really bad dogs will go through this battle in their mind the first couple of times we do this, where it's like, maybe they're in a down, or maybe they're on place, whatever I'm using for a command to proof this. I will, maybe it's the vacuum. The vacuum's easy. Boo, we turn that on, that can get a lot of dogs nervous. You can see the dog get startled, and their normal response is to run away. You know that they're going to, boom, I'm out of here, but they can't. They're on the place bed. They can't. They're in their down. So what ends up happening is they start holding themselves there, and they start shaking. And that's where everyone would be like, oh, what's wrong with the dog? I'm going to explain to you what's wrong with the dog. I turn the vacuum off. The dog wasn't shaking. The vacuum turns on. The dog's shaking. Why? And I know you can say it's afraid, but let me tell you what I think's happening. I think if I wasn't in the room and I turned that vacuum on, that dog would just run away. And I think it would make its way upstairs, and it would go into another room, and it would just shake it off, and it wouldn't be shaken. I think that it would just run away and leave the situation. I think because the situation that I'm putting the dog in with a non-negotiable command like place, and I'm also encouraging the dog softly to be there. I'm using my relationship, of course. And so when I turn on the vacuum after telling it to stay on the bed, its first instinct is to leave, but it doesn't, and it stays on the bed. And now it's doing what I say. It's fighting the old association, which is, this is what I do when I'm afraid, I run, with the new expectation, which is what I'm asking the dog to do. So its natural instinct is to run, but I'm asking it to stay, and so therefore we get a little vibration. The dog's fighting between, and what will happen over time is what I'm asking will outweigh, and the dog will end up relaxing and taking a deep breath. The body only allows the dog to waste so much energy before it realizes there's nothing to be afraid of. The vacuum's running and there's nothing to be afraid of. It's been 4 minutes. All of a sudden, they start to putter out. And sometimes it could take more. Like severe dogs, you could be waiting 15, 20 minutes or whatever before you start to see, 30 minutes before you really start to see the dog start to come out of it. But they do. And that's healing them. It taught them a different way. It doesn't sound like much, but it taught them to not run from their fear, and it also proved to them that nothing bad was going to happen. And I'm the one that told you not to run, right? Because I told you to play. So that's trust for me. This is getting us ready to go out to the real world, And so maybe I'll have guests come in a different session that look a little funky if the dog's a little spooked about strangers, work them through that kind of stuff. But all the dog's leaning on is my relationship and the command. So it's like, hey, all of a sudden we're in this situation that you're nervous. Here, why don't you go lay down on the place bed, right? If we're in the house. And then the dog feels, oh, okay, the place bed. Nobody's going to bother me here. And they feel comfortable. But they can't get off. That's the thing. Like if I tell them to go on, they can't get off until you say they can get off. But what ends up happening over time is the dog ends up using the command that it learned during the event. So like during the guest knocking, it probably learned down or place. If the dog feels uncomfortable, we notice these dogs go to place on their own, and they use it as a coping skill. And I think that's beautiful. And we see it with dogs who get nervous out in public. They put themselves in a down, and you see them calm themselves. They have a way of doing it now that they didn't know what they could do before. They just thought they had to run away or bark at the thing. So eventually we're going to make it out to the environment. We're going to make it out to the world, but I'll probably start outside on my property and then go to the local community and then probably go somewhere else. But what we're going to do is get the dog who's probably startled of traffic. They're probably startled of loud noises. They probably startle really easy, actually. Like if a car door shuts and they didn't see it coming, they're like, ooh, they startle. And then they probably don't have a very good recovery rate after that startle, meaning a normal dog who startles will startle and then they'll kind of check out the situation and settle back down and be fine, just like us, right? But a dog who's super nervy, if they startle, it's possible that it sets them into this space and it takes them a while to come out of it. So we also have to make sure we do state of mind training before we go out to the environment, otherwise, out to the world. Otherwise, the dog, if it triggers, there's no way for me to get it back to the healthy state of mind, right? So while we're doing this work in the room, I'm also going to be doing state of mind training. So if the dog starts to get good at this, where we're on the place bed and it's like it knows what to do, I turn on the vacuum, it starts to relax and it's getting easier for it. Now I got to make sure that I start to up the ante, like see if I can get the dog, use a trigger like dogs playing or something, get the dog stressed in a different way. Like stressed in a way that maybe I want to get off the bed or something. I need to now justify a reason to see if the dog can learn how to calm its mind down on command, right? So if the dog's on place or in a down or something, and I have my dog Izzy playing, and now all of a sudden this dog's starting to pant and get stressed out, whether it's because it wants to go away or if it's because it wants to go interact with her, whatever it may be, now I'm going to look at the dog, give it a shush, and go in with some very low numbers on the e-collar. And now the dog knows I'm disagreeing with something, but if it doesn't know with what, I'm going to start suggesting to relax with my body. And this is the dog whispering stuff I talk about with the body language and stuff. And I'll go through the process of quieting Izzy down for a second and teaching this dog to relax and going back to the state it was in. And then once it's in that state, I'll wait 10 to 20 seconds and then I'll play with Izzy again. And what you'll notice is the dog's head will pop right back up and the energy will come back too because they're just going off. They're just being triggered. And they're super amped again. I'll stop what I'm doing, and then settle them. E-collar stim, so that's the key. I want the e-collar stim to be involved because I want that to mean calm state of mind. So I don't always have to talk to the dog. I can just tap without even saying anything, and the dog will calm no matter what command it's in. Its mind will start calming down. What happens after a few times of this is the dog understands to stay in this calm state of mind. But also the important part was, the reason I did it is that it learned that the stim on the e-collar is the cue to further relax, or especially if I say shh, because I already know that's what that means. But the stim on the e-collar, the low level stuff, is telling you to relax your mind. So now when I'm playing with Izzy, same session, I can start tapping that e-collar low level, and I watch the dog put its head down and relax without me even having to gesture towards it. I could literally not even be paying attention to the dog, but and the dog understands that means to relax further. That's a skill it's going to need going out to the world, because if it starts to trigger, I can combat by saying, remember the expectation. I know that's the old association, but remember my expectation. And I can cut through it with that physical of the stim where maybe my voice would get drowned out in the city. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be sitting there talking too much to the dog anyway during these exercises. So it's its own experience. I'm just there to tell it when it's doing a good job and if it's confused to help it out and when it's doing something wrong, but I want it to have its own experience. So I can actually start to just tap this and it's reminding the dog without me having to really get involved, which is super valuable going out there. So we got a dog in that's insecure, nervy, it's fearful, but also if you're just joining in, it also has these attributes generally. It's nervy, but it's amped up, but it's confused. Yet it has an attitude and doesn't want to learn from you. So be prepared for that all to be happening. It's not like these guys are just all sweet. Some of them are. Some of them are nervy and just sweet, yes. But most of them are nervy and have an attitude, and they're confused and they're amped up. So it's not. It might not be what you think it is. So we teach all the commands in a non-negotiable style using the e-collar, and we get them so that the dog views them to be a safety spot by teaching the coping skills afterwards, such as the state of mind and that they need to have in the commands. So you can be in a down, but you also have to be calm in your down. You have to be in the calm state of mind. So think of it this way. We have the 5 commands, and within each command, we can apply the state of mind training. Well, we do. And we can say, okay, within your down, you're also in the calm state of mind. Within your sit, you're also in the calm state of mind. Within your place command, you're also in the calm state of mind. In your heel, you're also in the calm state of mind. So we can actually correct just for state of mind errors, not just positional errors. So if a dog's in heel, if it's in heel, but it's starting to get out of line upstairs, like starting to get too excited, I can correct, and the dog just calms down. It understands it. It doesn't mean that it left the heel position. It understands it's its mind, because we do state of mind training on top. Now, the dog can be in a calm, perfect state of mind, but wander off out of heel, and I can correct it, and it'll know that it's position. So it's position and mind. That's always what we can correct, okay? We want that calm state of mind, because here's why. When I go to do exposure therapy, and this dog's wanting to run away from everything because it's a terrifying city, and I put it on a street corner with me, and I ask it to down, the dog trusts me enough. Like, I'm not just doing this. I'm experience stacking, remember? I'm experience stacking, so that I'm to the point with the dog that we can go to this city. I'm putting it on the corner, I'm telling it to down. The dog understands, okay, there's going to be some stuff that spooks me here. He's familiar with the conversation. He knows that I know that there's going to be things that spook you, but I'm telling you it's okay. So just stay there. And you'll see the dog lay down. And maybe it even shakes because these cars are going by and stuff. Maybe it breaks it down a couple times, and I have to remind it with corrections on the e-collar, like, no, this works the same way as it does at home. The dog, because the dog trusts me as well, not just respect. I also use trust with this heavily. I treat these dogs like they're my dogs when I'm working with them. And there's like this other layer of trust where it's like, I'm not just the trainer, I'm also your owner kind of thing. I try to go for that with these dogs. And so it gets me through. And they'll watch these cars go by, and at first it's like, Jesus, I'm nervous of everyone that goes by. But over time, especially if I see that they're having trouble braking, I'm encouraging them with some low-level stim or whatever's appropriate at the time at the points of them starting to accelerate. So if they're kind of, this is their baseline, which is pretty nervous, but then they start to, that's where I'll click in and be like, okay, at least hold yourself accountable to not go any higher, okay? And then what happens is they kind of stay at a baseline of stress where they're just, and I'll let them stay there for a little while, but then I'll start tapping, meaning you got to take it down a little lower. And then I'll see a dog like lick its lips and stuff, and maybe stress yawn, which is actually releasing the stress. It's actually de-stressing more. Yes, stress yawn because the dog is stressed, but the stress yawn is usually good because it means it's decreasing. Okay, so now I see the dog get a little bit more relaxed with their body because of the training, and I let them hang out there. I'm not expecting them to do like I'm not expecting them to relax all at once. This dog really needs to just watch the environment. So now it's in this point where it's relaxed enough and it's able to watch, to learn for itself that those things don't hurt you. Neither does the person walking by, neither does the airplane up there, neither does the noises you hear over here. They don't affect you. This is what this dog needs to learn, because they can never learn it if it's barking at the world all the time out of fear because it's just trying to keep the world away, or running away all the time in fear. It's not learning about the world. It's just not. You can't learn when you're going, rah, rah, rah. You can't learn shit when you're doing that. And you can't learn when you're just constantly panicking and running away. So they don't know. And now I get this dog, it's like 2 years old or more. It missed all that. And so now it's like, what do I do? So I use these commands to show the dog the world. So just like sit down and watch it for a while. And it works. It really works. You might be there an hour and a half the first session, but the next session, the dog is more secure and more comfortable, and they understand. The best part is, not only are they better in that place that you bring them, but they're better at the process of going from I'm nervous to using coping skills to recovering to watching and staying in a healthy state of mind. They get good at that process, and that's the important part. So I need to make sure to keep, once the dog gets good in this spot, because I'm the trainer, I need to push it so that it's in a spot that now it's a little unsure of, so that it gets more practice going from that space of uncertainty to the healthy space on its own. That's rehab, baby. Teaching the dogs to use coping skills and to self-regulate their own energy and all this stuff, and then holding them accountable for doing it. and it can really change a dog, especially the environmental stuff. This is fantastic for that. So yes, do you correct a fearful dog? Well, yeah, you can see why now. Now that I went and yes, I'm going to correct it if it gets out of its down. You know what I mean? Because one thing, I can't have it running around and getting hit. But another thing is I just want it to watch the world. But once that conversation's over, the dog forgets about that. Like, I can't get out of my down. Okay, I have bigger problems. There's freaking giant trucks driving by. They're dealing with it. And I'm there at the end when they're doing well to pat them on the head and to reassure them that, like, you did a good job. See how you feel right now? This is how you can always feel out here. And so, and there's a lot of that. Exposure therapy, it's wonderful. And there's a lot of nooks and crannies to it. There's finesse to it. But it definitely is an important part of rehab for nervous and fearful dogs. On top of that, we also need to get them socialized properly, with other dogs, and at least understand a process of being around humans that they don't know, and possibly building new relationships with a human. I might even teach a dog, how do you build a relationship with a human, and use the training in the way that we do it. Anybody who wants to build a relationship with one of these insecure dogs or even aggressive dogs that leave our program is we have them work the dog, monitor it, and it starts with the walk. So they just start directing the dog around. The dog assumes it's like a handler and treats them with respect because it's got the program on. After a couple times, it has no issue with the person, and they can start forming a relationship. It's great. The same process we use to teach the owners how to control the dogs when they come here for the go home is the same way that we build a new relationship, essentially, with another person, because the dog feels comfortable with these commands. So if you start using its language, like, it's been proven time and time again that down stay is awesome. Heel is awesome because if I'm in heel, I'm safe walking through the city and all this. If you start using this stuff, the dog feels safe with you a couple sessions in, especially if you get a few pets in and things go well, you're good. The dog's going to wag his tail when it sees you, and that means you're in. So that's how it goes. But we also encourage, like, your dog doesn't need to build relationships with strangers. But if there is somebody that you need to build a relationship with your dog because they're going to be in its life, that would be the way to do it. That would be the way to enter the relationship. Enter it through the commands and the control and the trust and the respect. And then you can loosen up and do loosey-goosey stuff. Okay? All right, let me make sure I didn't miss anything, guys. Exposure therapy is a big one. And, I especially like the part where I was talking about you can enter these conversations without actually going out to the real world. So remember we were talking about reactivity the other day? Same exercise is applied to reactive dogs before we go out and work on, like, going after other dogs. And you teach them a coping skill. So I can put them in a down. And then in dogs with prey drive, too, you can do this with. You can put them in a down, whatever, they're in their down. And then you can take a squeaky ball and go squeak, 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 and throw it across the room and watch the dog go like wham, 0 to 60. It doesn't break its down, maybe it does break its down, then that's a real big problem. But if it doesn't break its down, it'll do this though. And that's reactivity. All right? And so now what we discovered is that we can enter that conversation about the brain flicking and switching like that, the impulse control problem, in the training room with right now. So we can actually say, hey, when you start to go, when you hear something like that catches your attention, don't go 0 to 60. Don't go, woof, don't do that. Okay, because that means you're going to react. What that means, that's barking and lunging at dogs. That's what that is. And squirrels and cats. That triggered that part of that brain. That little squeaky freaking ball right there, and throwing it across the room. So now we'll take that ball, squeak, squeak, squeak. The dog's in its down. We go to throw it. The dog automatically reacts like this. If it doesn't get out of its down, first couple times it does get out of its down, but then you correct that. It doesn't get out of its down. It goes boom like this, right? You correct that. No, boom, no. And then the dog, you do it a few more times. The dog starts to realize. Okay, you watch the dog. This is how the double down was first, how I first learned about the double down, that it wasn't anything. It was the dogs doing this naturally, and it had to be named. And Julie is clever, and she had a name for it. But dogs were doing this naturally, and this is how we knew when they were done with the process. So there was no name for the double down at this point. It was just what dogs were doing. So we were saying, don't go after that. Don't focus heavily on that ball when you hear it because you're in your down. So you shouldn't be doing that in your down. You shouldn't be doing any of that in any of your commands, in heel or anything. You shouldn't be using that part of your brain. So this is what we're teaching. After correcting for the dog looking, intensely at the ball, most every dog did this. They put their head down and they took a deep breath. Okay? So the double down is not something that was ever forced on a dog. It was something that the dogs were doing that we named, that we then said, that's what we want to go for because we know that's when they're in their healthy state. And then it became a thing from there. Okay? So you can enter the conversation of reactivity by putting your dog in a down, squeaking a ball and throwing it across the room. And you watch those eyes light up like it just seen a squirrel. Your dog said, while I'm in my down, the command that the human gave me, I'm allowing myself to enter parts of prey drive and all this stuff. And it's like, no, that's wrong. That's where you're struggling. The dog needs to understand those parts of your brain are off limits when you're in your commands. So that's part of the proofing process, where we will proof a down state to make sure the dog can actually do it. We want to trigger it with prey drive. We want to trigger it with dogs. We want to proof it with squeaky toys and guests and stuff, because the dog needs to learn when you're in down, you don't enter high elevation of energy. You don't enter prey drive. You don't enter defense drive. You don't enter anything. You stay in the calm state of mind when you're in sit, down, heel, and place, right? So very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. It always is fun to work a dog through this process, although it's a lot of hard work. All right, I'm going to get to the questions. I know I missed a couple. Thanks for joining. It's Friday. So, we did it. We made it through another week, and we didn't miss a day. Let's see what we got here. Thank you for joining, everybody. I really appreciate it. It's been a very busy week, and I think it's going to be another very busy week. So there's with the board and trains, it's 3-week program most of the time, 4 weeks. The first 2 weeks are busy, and then you kind of get a week where it's a little bit of a breather, but then the last part of that, it's not even a full week, because the last part, the dog's going home, and you get all the go-homes, and you get all the new dogs coming in. So you really get 2 or 3 days that are light every month, maybe, if you're lucky. But if you live with Julie, just kidding, Julie. She'll find a way to have something to do. Okay, here we go. Here's the first question. First comment. I've taken the shh into my own routine, and now they respond so well only to the shush. Awesome. And the shush is great because it addresses energy. That's how I teach it, at least. It's if I'm shushing you, I'm telling you it's your energy. I need you to bring it down. And if the energy is low, then the dog can't run around or do any of that stuff. So yeah, it's great. It works wonderful. Yeah, awesome. We did it, guys. It's 8:37. I got a busy day. I don't even know everything I have to do. I got to go write it down. Lots of dogs to work. I think I have another Skype today. And then, Jesse will be home eventually. Oh, I got portraits I'm doing. That's right. Got a bunch of portrait requests recently. Working on those. And then we're going to take the weekend, and I think we're going to be working on the weekend this weekend, because some of these dogs need more outings. And that's just what you got to do. You got to go and get them done. So thanks for joining in. If you have any comments or questions, leave them for me. I will look at those. Any ideas for future lives? We did get a couple that I will be doing. One of them was on, I think this might have been one of the questions. Somebody was talking about insecure dogs or nervy dogs. This probably did it for them, I hope. If not, they can let me know. Any other, ideas for content, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. I'll talk to you guys on Monday.